Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jagdeep Ahluwalia, and I'm the founding secretary of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Houston, which I currently serve as executive director. Join me and our board in thanking Police Chief Troy Finner for joining us today to share his knowledge and his life experience. I want to start off by introducing our Chamber Executive Committee, our board, our directors at large, and our advisors. The Chamber has grown in stature over the past years thanks to the leadership and the guidance of this esteemed group of business and community leaders. Today's webinar will be recorded and the recordings will be shared later. We are also live on our Facebook page. I want to thank and recognize Shell for sponsoring today's event and the whole distinguished lecture series, which this event is part of. We also want to recognize Shell for supporting our Women Mean Business series and look forward to welcoming you to upcoming Shell-sponsored events. The Chamber is proud to be serving the business community for over 21 years, and we work very closely with our sister chambers and our local associations. On behalf of IACCGH, we thank our partner organizations who help promote today's event, our community partner organizations, and our media partners who help spread the word before and after the event. We want to thank our long-term sponsors whose support over the years helps us to continue to serve our community. They are Brask Inc., Lyondell Basel, Shipcom, CHI St. Luke's, Amir Ali Dodia, and Foster Global. Without their support, we would not be able to serve the community the way we have been so successfully, especially during the pandemic. I would now like to invite the president of the chamber, the chairman of our board, Tarush Anand. He is professionally a partner in the litigation practice group of McGlinchey Stafford, a premier business law firm with 15 offices nationwide. He represents clients from a wide range of industries and helps them with trials and appeals of various types of disputes. He has received several awards and recognitions, including the Houston Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Award, an AV preeminent rating by Martindale-Hubbell, and the Texas Super Lawyers Rising Star designation for several consecutive years. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome our president, Tarush Anand.
Thank you, Jagdeep. Good morning and welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Chief Finner, it's nice to see you again. We, of course, met just a few months ago at the Hilton Americas, shortly after you stepped into this role. That was more of a welcome you to the community. Today was meant to be a follow-up to that, where we got to learn more about you. We had hoped to do that in person, but unfortunately, changing circumstances have made that less than ideal. So hopefully this is simply part one in a ongoing discussion dialogue with you about who you are and what your plans are for the city, with the next parts being a lot more interactive and in person. But we may do what we are and make the best of it. So with that, let me move on quickly to introducing to you so we can hear from you. Chief Finner was born and raised in Houston. He's a product of Houston schools and of our systems here. Today, he is chief of the police department of the fourth largest city in the US. In that role, he oversees 5,300 classified and sworn personnel and another 1,200 civilian staff. He began his law enforcement career in 1991 and is a 31-year veteran of the police force. It's my pleasure to welcome Chief Finner.
Thank you, Mr. President. And let me apologize for my voice today. The doctor has told me before to make sure I take my sinus medicine, and I'm a little hard-headed about it, but we're going to get through it. Thank you, and thank you for the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. That is the beauty of our city, the diversity from different groups. And definitely as a police chief, I am so grateful to all the partnerships and also the friendships. I know that you mentioned some other sponsors, but I think the major sponsor is Shell. Thank them for what they do in the community. what they do for this event, but what they do for the Houston area, greater Houston area every day. But also I looked at the board members. What a very powerful board, and so many important people. So I know I'm in a good place. You said it, it's always better to meet in person, but we hadn't been able to tackle and beat this COVID thing yet, but I look forward to spending many more moments with you and everybody in the group in person, because to be honest with you, when you're in person and you're looking at eyes and you're touching hearts, it's just a great feeling. It's kind of hard to do that on Zoom, but I love everybody and we're going to do the best. But let me start off just by saying a little bit about myself. And you read some of the bio, and I want to talk less about me and more about what we can do as a community to make our city safer. But as you said, I was born and raised here in Houston, but to go a little bit deeper, very proud of my ties, born in Fifth Ward and raised in Hiram Clark. My mother and father were very proud. I just lost my mother. My father's still alive. We were born, and everybody in the Fifth Ward area, including my parents. A lot of people don't realize my mom was raised in the Kelly Court, a project that, you know, was way back then, is still standing today. And my father was a hardworking gentleman, and, you know, he went to work and provided. And we moved over to Hiram Clark area. And that's where I attended grade school, middle school, and high school at Bradley, graduated from Madison High School, and very proud of those ties over in Hiram Clark area. Went on to Sam Houston State University, and I got my 4-year degree. And I actually started the police department in 1989. So took a few years away from me. But once, while I was an officer, I went and got my master's degree at the University of Houston, Clear Lake. So my family makeup, when I was a kid, it was 3 boys and 3 girls. And mom and dad didn't have a lot of money, but they laid down the rules of discipline and hard work and getting along with people. And the most important thing is just knowing that you need everyone to be successful in whatever you want to do. Build up and work hard, build your self-pride, but understand you always have to reach back, reach up, and reach out to be a good community member. And I just love that about my parents. A lot of things what's going on right now in society, politics, racism, and whatever the other things are going on, that's really counterproductive to being successful as a group, as community members, as a police department, you know, whatever we're doing. So I'm so fortunate and so grateful of my parents for instilling those goals in me. Also, let me move on to the police department. So like I said, I've been here 31 years, and most of that time has been in operations. I've done a lot in administrative as well, but my troops and the department know me as a true police officer or you know, a frontline guy. And that's the way I've been at each rank, and that's the way I'm going to be as chief of police. I think it's important, especially what's going on now. Your troops need to see you out on that front line, and I will continue to lead from the front. We're going to hold people accountable. I want to touch a little bit on community and our relationships. I've always said, and I live and I'll die by this. You have to build relationships if you want to be successful in anything. The challenge is right now in law enforcement and a lot of other things. Okay, we're trying to reduce crime, but how do you do that, reducing crime, but at the same time you build trust? How do you do that? You first of all have to acknowledge, you know what, the people who we come into conflict with and some of the different groups, their perception of us is not so positive. And sometimes we're the blame for that. If you look at policing and you look at the dark history of how we treated, you know, different groups, we have to account for that and own up to it and then move forward. But as you do that, something that's extremely important is you have to give value to a person's life experiences and things that they have been through. And if you don't, you can't build the bridges that you need to in law enforcement to be successful in 21st century policing. And the way that you do that, you give that value to how they're perceiving things, because their perception is their reality. My perception is my reality. And the thing of it is, when they don't come together, you got to sit down and give value to each side and sit down and talk and build those relationships and build the bridges that you can get to true trust and transparency. So that is a challenge, especially when we're dealing with a political environment that is so divisive. And as your chief, I really don't talk much about politics, okay? Because I feel this one thing, as a chief, as a police officer, how do you get yourself involved in stuff that's so divisive? I want to serve, and I serve everybody, every community. And the way that you do that, you try to stay clean of that. Speak the truth when you need to, but I want my officers and my leaders on this police department, let's serve. Let's serve. Let's not get into the sideshows and all that stuff that's going to get us off of our goal of making this city safer, working with every community that we can, and all the great groups that we have. I want to push back on something. I'm sorry, because y'all asked me to discuss this, okay? My mentor, okay? And I don't think any person that's successful has just one mentor. You may have one primary, but let me tell you, I spoke at two already. My role models, my mentor, that's my mother and my father. They set the tone early on for all of us, and I'll forever hold on to that. But when I look at my profession, several mentors, several important people, but I can think of one individual, retired Executive Assistant Chief Michael Durden, a great, brilliant man. When I was a baby sergeant, he pulled me up into his office, and back then it was the Office of Internal Affairs and Inspector General. So we reviewed all of the IED cases over all of the city, over HPD, HFD, Public Works, the whole city. I got such a lesson of looking at and getting a beat on what's going on around our city and all the city departments. And he walked me through it. He loved me, he mentored me, and he showed me what it was going to take to be a leader at some day. Now, never thought I'd be the police chief. I didn't plan for this, but I'm gonna tell you something, and with anybody, put in the work, keep your heart in the right place. And if it's meant for you, somebody or something is going to elevate you to where you need to be. And I don't want to sound like I'm boastful or cocky or anything, but I truly believe I'm the place where I need to be right now at this moment. I am so fortunate and I'm so blessed, and I want to acknowledge the great support that I have from this city, this group that I'm with today, and many other groups. And that's something that I don't take lightly, because it's going to take all of us to get us where we need to be, a safer city, one in which we work together. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, not only this community, but all of the communities who have loved me. And this is very important. You want people to call you and tell you when you do a good job, but you need friends and colleagues and other people who are going to tell you, what, Troy, Chief Fenner, whatever you want to term me, you're going the wrong way. And I have that in this community. I have the respect, but also have the love of people, and I'll allow them to tell me, you know what, we need to go in another direction. So I'm really, really fortunate of that. What are we doing with crime? And then people ask about it. And I know there's going to be a lot of questions, because I know this, the topic says lecture, but I really want interaction. And I think that's best. New law is coming down today. And I've got so many questions about it, and then so many requests for interviews. But let me tell you this, and then I'll move on to something else real quickly. If you have to get a driving license to drive a car, shouldn't you have to get some type of permit and some training to pack a gun? And let me segue on into what I'm saying, because I told y'all I really don't like the politics. let's say what's going on and honestly what's going on in Houston, Harris County right now. We're unlike any other county in this nation right now in this aspect. We're all together and you've seen an uptick of violent crime, homicides, aggravated assaults, mainly with deadly weapons, pistols, and other guns. We're there. But this is what a lot of people don't realize. When Hurricane Harvey hit, it wrecked our criminal justice system. It shut down jury trials, okay? Then COVID rolls into town on us. It shuts everything down for another, year and a half. So we've been that long without having a large number of jury trials. That's why we have the backup right now. Over 100 trials, criminal trials is backed up. 55,000 are felonies. 1,500 are murder trials. Just short of 500 are capital murder trials. So that's where we are. And we have to work together, everybody. One thing that's important to me, and I hope if nothing else, this gets out to everybody that's listening today, anybody can step from the sideline and throw a stone into the game. But if you really love and you really care for people, whatever you're doing, step in there, be honest with people, be frank with people, but don't tear them down outside the game lines. Step in the game with them. And that's what I tried to do here in Harris County. When I first got appointed and sworn in, I said that we have problems here in Harris County. We have a crime problem, but I'm not gonna go after anybody of this criminal justice system publicly. I'm gonna first take some responsibility as the police chief. We're gonna do the best that we can with all the resources that we have in fighting crime, set the best policies and procedures, the best strategies, do our part. The next step is to sit down and be honest with judges, district attorneys, commissioners, anybody that has any part in the criminal justice system. And I've seen that, and things are coming together. Now, is it faster than I like? No. I wish we can open up and have 1,000 trials a day and concentrate on those individuals, not low-level nonviolent, somebody that's suffering from mental illness or drug dependency, not those people. Let's divert them and get them some help. But these very violent people who you see on the TV committing these crimes every day, time after time, if good people and good police officers focus in on those people, be respectful, sit down and come up with a plan. And I don't care if you're in the criminal justice system or any other business. Let's just come together and focus in on those individuals who are truly violent in our community, causing us the most problems. And I think we'll be, and I know we'll be successful. I want to talk in terms of the great diversity of this city. I know I said a few things on it, but it is simply a strength. Nowhere in this nation where I've traveled, we have this great diversity. And that's why they say we are the most diverse city in this nation. And it is a strength. And this conference, this Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, I am so happy that you guys invited me just to say a few words. I'll be back anytime. I got a lot of y'all phone numbers. I want to stay in contact. I want us to continue to work together. And what I like about this Congress, this Chamber of Commerce, it's not just one group that looks alike. Y'all bringing everybody in with love and support. And that's how we are successful in whatever we can do in this city, in this county, in our surrounding area, and in our great nation. So I did want to save some time. I don't have a time clock on, but I do want to have some questions because I don't ever want to leave anywhere where there's a whole lot of questions unasked after I've made a presentation. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief Finner. So for the audience members, our request is at the bottom of your screen, you will have a Q&A box. Please, if you have questions, type your questions in there and we will try to get to all of them as efficiently as possible. But let me kick things off, if I may. You talked about the fact that day one, when you came in, you recognized we have a crime problem in Houston. And some of this may be based on data. Some of this may be based on the news sensationalizing the stories that stand out. So it's hard to tell just from news stories whether things are as bad as they really are. So from your perspective, based on the data, how bad are things? And then in broad strokes, what are your thoughts in terms of where we go from here?
We can always, and you can look at stats, and you brought it up perfect, okay? I don't ever want us to just in Houston or any other city, oh, the sky's falling, everything is just terrible. But you do have to, as a police chief, look at those stats. And when we're 30% up on homicides, we're, I think, 304, 303 today. We got to try to get those numbers down. Now, is it totally the police department's job? And we take the primary role. We're the professions. But when you look at homicide, mostly it's a crime that's committed. It's a relationship thing. It's something that you're doing. And I'm not blaming every victim. So please don't leave and say, well, Chief Fenner is blaming every victim. No, I'm not. Somebody that's been assaulted and abused in a domestic violence, is that their fault? No, it's not. Okay, but I'm just saying that there's normally a relationship. So the challenge is, it's so hard to solve those crimes if you don't have some information from the public. If somebody drives by on a corner in one of our neighborhoods and shoots somebody, chances are somebody's home video camera picked that up. Chances are somebody's seen that. And when they saw the suspect's car leaving that scene, chances are they know who it is, okay? We get the call and we go out there without anything. We don't know who it is. So it's so incumbent upon us to work together as the police department and the citizens. And I have been very strong because I'm a member of this community. I was born and raised, and I can talk to all communities without people getting offended because I think they understand my heart. It's all of our responsibility to stand up and fight this crime. Look out for your neighbor, but when you see something and you see somebody victimized, you say something about it. We got too many avenues where you can just call in and nobody will never know that you called in. Call in, and if you're motivated by just doing the right thing, great. You may be motivated by money, and that's okay. Just do the right thing and call it in so we can get the violent people off our street. Our partners with Crime Stoppers have stepped up. There's other people in the community, business owners. Tillman Fertitta just stepped up and pledged a lot of money in terms of calling in and getting people in custody and to help the police on these violent crimes. So we look at that. I hope we all do that. Another thing I want to talk about is aggravated assaults, deadly weapons, okay? Because you shoot somebody and they don't die, it's just as bad as you shooting somebody and they die, okay? Let's give some credit to our great medical center. But people don't understand, we got to look at those aggravated assaults just as hard as we look at the homicides, because the only thing that's separating them, we got them to the medical center in a timely fashion and they were able to save the lives, or the suspect was not a good shot. So we got to look at both of those crimes and put resources on them. And that's what we've really done. But we need everybody else, the community, our judges, and everybody else getting in and saying, you know what, no more. We're not gonna tolerate this violent crime.
Chief, I want to assure you that the community really appreciates everything you're doing for us. I remember at the reception at the Hilton Americas, you acknowledged Bobby Singh and
Yes.
the work he had been doing all over
My
the
friend.
years
Yes.
in educating the cadets about the Sikh faith. I also just got a message from Vijay Palod, one of our community leaders, who wanted to thank you for the fact that the cadets visited the Hindu center.
Good.
And they basically they went to visit the meet the Hindu community at the VPS temple, and this is the first time that's happened. So Vijay asked me to convey his gratitude on behalf of the community. I also know that you work with Mustafa and other people reaching out to the Muslim community.
Yes.
So you are being inclusive. And I remember a story when I first visited America in 1982. I went to Nebraska and I was wearing a red turban. And a lady walked up to me. I was wearing a red turban because that was the color of the local football team in Nebraska, the Big Red.
Yes.
And she thought I was wearing a bandage and it was bloodied. And another sad part was after 9/11, the first two people who were killed in hate crime were people of my faith, the Sikhs.
Yes, I remember.
And I want to put on record the fact that in Houston, in the area we live in a very inclusive community. And it is because leaders like you make the effort to listen, and leaders like Bobby and Vijay Pallod and the others make the effort to teach. Because part of the problem arises from a lack of understanding, a lack
Yes.
of education. So on behalf of the community, I want to thank you for your effort. I have a message from Ramesh Shah asking how the community can get more involved in helping the police. And Dalia Sharif, who's a dean at the Lone Star College, she says they have a new program for police officers to earn their bachelor's degree in emergency leadership at a very nominal fee of $5,000. And how can she reach out and collaborate with you to talk to your people about this program? So this is some of the this is some of the feedback that's come. I will connect you by your office by email to her directly.
Thank you.
But coming back to your role as a community leader, you are a role model, and people look up to you, and you send a message out that we can all reach the pinnacle of success if we work hard. Do you want to talk a little about some of the struggles you've had in your career? Because
Jagdeep,
it's not about...
Before we get to that, though, why don't we see if the chief wants to add anything to those two questions? Both Bobby Singh and Ramesh Shah have asked similar questions, which is, what can we do to help HPD? I think you addressed some of that in your comments, but if there's any other thoughts you have specific to our community, I think the opportunity sometimes we have, given our fairly recent migration to the U.S. as a group and our general role in the community, may not be the same as what others can do. So any thoughts you have to share with our group on how we can help?
No, thank you. I'm so glad we paused there for a second, because you mentioned great men of the community. And my God, you look at Bobby, who's been active with our police department. I know over 20 years, okay? It probably, I don't want to age him because he always looks so young and so well dressed, but
he is so young.
Yeah. Hey, other members, but I thank y'all so much in the relationships. You can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. And when I talk in terms of diversity and all that, it's all communities. Every community is important. And I think I've demonstrated that. But to hear that from y'all really warms my day and warms my heart, because I know that I'm doing some of the right things. So, but how can you help? Just as I said earlier, please, please, please be the eyes and the ears for us. We're understaffed right now. I won't make an excuse for that. It's a fact. And we take what we have to do the best job that we can do. But our greatest force multiplier is our citizens. So I don't care what community you are. When you see something, you say something, get involved, get us the information, and let's work together. And let's be proactive. A lot of times we talk that this see something, say something thing is kind of after the fact. I think the greatest tool and the greatest power a community and a police department can share, if they're both proactive, looking for things. If you see something that's out of line or something that's suspicious, call us. We should be in partnership, not like, oh, well, I didn't want to bother the police on that one. I thought it was something petty. No, it may turn out that you prevented a major crime. So let's go into partnership. I also want to mention our Police Citizens Academy, and it's handled through our Public Affairs division. I'd like to get some information out on that, because that is something, Bobby went through that, a few other leaders went through it as well. It's like a 10 to 12 week program where you really get a look at our department. You get to go through some of our training, you get to drive, you get to shoot. It's really fun. It's over 10 weeks, only one day per week, and it's in the evening. So I think it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours for like 10 weeks. So I really want to push that. That's a way that you can help us getting involved and learning more about our police officers and police department, understanding the unique challenges that we have, and then put that out to the community. You can also help us in building relationships, stay informed, and speak the truth. You know, keep things in perspective. You see sometimes that there's an officer involved shooting or an incident where an officer has misbehaved. That's not who we are. We run 1.2 million calls for service a year. And I can tell you the great majority of those calls are handled in a professional manner. So you can talk about things that we need to improve on, but also let people know the truth. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry.
So, Chief, another thing I'd like to bring to the forefront is, in the past, there used to be a South Asian advisory where a select group of community leaders from across the jurisdiction would meet once a quarter, were briefed by the police assistant chief designated. In those days, it used to be Assistant Chief Chen before he retired.
Right.
And we were briefed every quarter, and we were given a chance to give you our feedback.
Yes.
So is that something you would like to consider, or is that something
No,
which
it's
is not on
not only considered, it's done. And I hadn't mentioned one of my new assistant chiefs who I'm so proud of, Yasser Bashir. Everybody knows by now.
Yes.
If you don't, what a great guy, what an intelligent man, and what a hell of a police officer. But I promoted him, and I was so happy to promote him because first of all, he's qualified, and he's a great person who loves community and loves the department. But right behind that, when you talk in terms of transparency and inclusiveness, if you don't have decision-making and understanding of different communities at the very top of your organization, how do you properly serve? Okay, I can't tell you what it's like to be a Muslim or Sikh or whatever. You know, my religion is different. We all love each other, but I need people from those different communities to tell me, you know what, if we have a problem, or how should we look at this? How do we move forward? So I'm so glad that he is the first Muslim chief in the nation at a major police department, but he shouldn't be the last. And other agencies should look around and do the same, because we have a great community here that needs representatives throughout our agency. So I was proud to do that. I didn't mean to spend so much time on it, but y'all see my passion. I love that guy, and he's a smart person, and he's going to do a great job for the department and also the community.
But are you planning to put together an advisory the way we had in the past?
Absolutely. And I'm sorry I didn't finish it. That's who I want to head it up. That's who I want, just as Chen, Chief Chen, I want him to spearhead it with you guys. Absolutely.
Darush, any thoughts on?
You broke up. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last statement.
No, that's okay. I think he's asking if I have any thoughts, but we'll do one final call for questions if anyone has questions. We'll give them a minute, but if not, Jagdeep, I think we're probably ready to wrap up. Once again, Chief, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to the next one being in person. And I'll hand things over to Jagdeep.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
And Chief, again, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom. I'll now hand it over to IACCGH board member Lisa, who will propose a formal vote of thanks, and then I'll come back to wrap up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jagdeep. Thank you, Tarush. And I just want to take time to, on behalf of Shell Oil, to thank the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce for their partnership in our community and for always being such great host of our events. I also want to say thank you to Chief Finner for sharing about yourself and your journey. A great discussion, giving us a little insight on what you have to deal with, what your department has to deal with in a city as large as Houston. And thank you so much for your time today for this event and being on the front line and serving our community. Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for joining the call. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Alyssa, on behalf of the Chamber Board, for Shell's continued sponsorship. Before I thank anybody else, I want to thank Bhavna Bagga, who makes these webinars work. On behalf of our board, our president, and our members, we want to thank Police Chief Finner, not only for joining us today, but for the exceptional work he's doing in making our city safe. We want to thank our partner. First, we want to thank Shell once again for their support and sponsorship. We want to thank our partner organizations to help promote our events. We want to recognize our community partners who are with us in serving our community. And when I say our community, these are Indo-American partners, but we serve the whole community. So for example, on today's event, if you were to look at the list of participants, we've got members of various chambers, not just the Indo-American community, but the African-American Chamber of Commerce. We've got representatives of all different chambers and economic development agencies and community organizations with us today. I want to thank our media partners who helped get the word out before and after the event. I also want to bring into focus a very important event. It's on Wednesday, September the 8th at 12 noon. It's meant for employers or people who handle employees, human resources professionals, and it's about the viruses, variants, and vaccines, legal and practical workplace considerations for employers. So it's a very important topic, and we pride ourselves at the Chamber of Commerce of responding to the immediate needs of the community. So last year in March, when the pandemic started, we immediately had the privilege of inviting Nehal Anand from Littler, which is the top employment law firm in Texas, to talk about what employers need to know with the pandemic. And now she has accepted our request in a very busy schedule to come back on September the 8th and to talk to us. If you're an employer, if you handle employees, or if you're an HR professional, get in touch with the chamber. Visit IACCGH.com to register. It's a free event. It's on September the 8th, and it's from 12 noon to 1 p.m. With that, we come to the end of today's presentation. I want to thank each one of you on behalf of Tarush and our board for attending. I want to once again thank the chief, but more important, Chief, I want to thank your exceptional staff. We've been working closely with Kietra and the other people in your staff.
Thank you.
You must be proud of them because they made our work a lot easier
They are
in
so
putting this
good.
event together. And as Tarush said, we look forward to the opportunity to being with you in person.
Yes.
And we look forward to welcoming you to our gala on October the 30th. With that, we come to the end of today's program. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you to all our attendees. And we will connect again. Stay safe and stay connected. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.